Hey, this is Paul McCarthy. Welcome to Facilities First. We are on episode 10. When I started this, I didn't know how it was going to go, but now I'm actually doing two shows a month for the most part. And today I've got, and I'm going to ask him about this because I'm not sure, but I've got another military veteran, an Air Force guy. I've got Daniel Rodriguez with Flicks Brew House. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Hey, dude. I really thought the big intro, graphic and stuff was super cool, man. I'm kind of bummed though that you weren't dressed out. I expected you in like a full kit, a Kevlar helmet, flak vest. This was very military driven, dude. So I thought it was super awesome.
Well, one of my best friends was in the military, and he was an Air Force guy, but we called him Chair Force. Was that you?
Sure. Yeah, I'll own that now because I do absolutely sit in the chair and force a lot of things through. But I will say that probably not in my 20s. I wouldn't have owned that,
You wouldn't have owned that, but now you.
No, no.
So, so it's unique because I can't tell you. I probably have four out of my guests have been military, and so there seems to be some correlation between the military structure and a facility manager, which is kind of crazy because if you think about facilities, it's something's new every day. But I guess so is the military. So kind of tell me the correlation between the two.
I think that it is and was a super easy transition, man, because, the military, your primary role, regardless of how you doctor and dress it up, is really to just kill people and break all their stuff. I mean, that's the goal of the military. As crude as that sounds, that's the goal. And so the break all their stuff part, unfortunately, we end up having to typically go back in and rebuild all that stuff. And so you've got a huge mess you're dealing with. And so you really have to learn to do both very well. And so part of this facilities management, facilities directorate, you're dealing with a lot of really crazy situations of things that are so unpredictable most of the time. And you've got to find some ways to resolve that, with sometimes minimal supplies, sometimes long lead times on supplies. And so you really have to get in and just MacGyver it, and
That's
the military is very good at doing that. And so it was super easy transition to roll right into. It's a rare skill set.
that's really one of the best correlations I've heard.
Hmm.
And what was you? I guess you kind of touched on a little bit about breaking stuff and putting it back together. Well, what was your bread and butter in the Air Force?
Yeah, man. Well, I was a combat engineer, so essentially, I spent the first part of my career just destroying a lot of things, building a lot of weaponry and bombs and crazy stuff. A lot of stuff you dream of when you're a little kid, little boy running around in the woods playing war, and watching cool action movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Predator and all this cool stuff. And so my 20s were spent really just traveling the world and destroying a lot of things. Um, it's great. I got a lot of stories, man, but I don't want to take too much time on that part. But the latter part really became more of that rebuild, the education part, right? When I really learned to be an engineer, and I really learned the fun in actually rebuilding things that are broken. And when you're a kid, super focused on just breaking stuff. It's fun when you're a little boy running around. But yeah, I would say the latter part of my career was that. And then of course, I rolled into more of the leadership development of my people. And then that became really fun where, the latter part of my career, I was a drill sergeant. Air Force calls it a military training instructor. And that really brought out some really, really super cool stuff and super cool experiences.
So that's a great segue into the next question: is what is that one moment where, whether it be a leader of yours or somebody, or even yourself leading others, where you said, "Man, this is really what leadership looks like." What's an example of that?
I could probably give you a different answer every 10 years of my life, right? But I'm going to roll back again to the military. I think the biggest experience force changer for me was when I was a drill sergeant, man, at the latter part of my career. You get so used to having this autocratic approach to things. And then when you really start to deal with so many different people with multiple personalities, and some even had their own multiple personalities, you really had to learn to finesse that, and truly that's where the servant leadership aspect came in. A lot of delegation, of course, but with a lot of empowerment, man, because I think without the empowerment portion and the training, you just basically are delegating your work to someone else.
So what I'm hearing, you've got the military structure, the military playbook. Uh, you've broken stuff, seen stuff broken, and you've put it back together. So it's almost like all your worlds were aligning for you to go into facilities. What was your transition like from military to civilian? Did you go directly into facilities?
Yeah, now sort of. So when I left the military, I was still like super intimidated by the civilian world because I didn't understand how it worked at all, right? Like, I mean, I had spent so much time, behind the scenes in government. And so I stuck with another government job at that point. I actually went to work for the Federal Aviation Administration. So I was able to take my education background, my technical background, a lot of those hard skills, and roll them into working at an air traffic control tower. So I managed three of them here in Texas. This is, about 10, no shit, maybe it was less than that, 7 years ago.
Okay.
So I did that for a number of years, and that's what started the transition after that. Is I had hit a 20-year mark in government. I said, man, you know what? Let's take the leap. Let's see what this civilian world looks like. It's fun. It's just like I did when I was 18 and said, hey, let's go sign up and see what the world's like.
Yeah.
Same type of thing.
And I'll tell you, for anybody, I've had the privilege of going into a FAA traffic control center and watching the air traffic controllers. They're cool, calm, and collected, and they've got all these little dots going on the screen, and it's just like nothing, but they have so many things going on at once. And I think that correlates a lot with facilities and what you're doing. So you went from U.S. Air Force, you went to FAA, and now you go into facilities.
Yeah.
How did that look when you first got in?
Yeah, man. This is an interesting one. So I can't. I have six kids, by the way, and five sons, and so I'm saying that because I haven't yet to hear one of them say, "Hey, Dad, when I grow up, I want to be a facilities manager." Right? I would love to hear anybody out there who has a young kid who said, "Man, I really want to grow up and be a facility manager." Right? Like, it's just, I'm sorry, dude, I've never heard that. So I didn't even know what it was, to be honest. Right? And then as I transitioned and I started to see these opportunities popping up, these job postings, and so forth, I'm like, well, what is this? This is obviously several years ago. Facilities manager, interesting. And I'm reading it and I'm like, damn, like these are all the things I am really good at. What is this facility manager stuff? And then I started really looking into it. I'm like, wow, this is not only exactly what I was literally trained my whole life to do, but it's what I really enjoy doing. And so let's do it, man. And that's how I took the plunge, why I took the plunge. And it's honestly, man, I totally could and will. My plan is to just ride it out here till retirement. I mean, this is a fantastic job. It truly
That's
is.
that's awesome,
And
and that's why I started this show, because so many people don't understand
mm-mm.
what you guys do in the background, and it's amazing what y'all do. So as you transitioned into facilities, what is the one thing that really didn't transition that you kind of had to adapt to?
Yeah, man, that's probably a blanket answer for really all the civilian positions I stepped into. So anybody who's ex-military or been around military folks, a lot of the bad habits, right? And I think you kind of have an idea what I'm talking about. Bad habits, right? Like integrity, toxicity, things like that are weeded out, in the first couple of years of your career. Those don't exist after that. And if they do exist, you probably don't last in the military too long. And unfortunately, in the civilian world, it's very opposite. A lot of those early traits that are weeded out carry long into careers and unfortunately make it to senior leadership roles, right?
Yep.
In my opinion, man, it's like that old, teach an old dog new tricks. You can't. I mean, at that point, it's like it's really rooted in who they are. And so I had to adjust to, unfortunately, some of those negatives, right?
Yep.
Which I never really saw in senior leadership in the military. I mean, of course, it was there, but maybe it was undercover or hidden a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that definitely was the biggest adaptation. I would say I'm very used to it now. Not that I work somewhere like that. I definitely don't.
Yeah.
But I'm very well prepared now after my civilian time to be able to identify it and understand it.
Well, okay. So one of the things that people don't understand is what is a day in the life of a facility manager. So I'm going to give you a Tuesday day. What does it look like for you, Daniel?
Man, that's such a brilliant open-ended question, dude, because I could take that in so many directions. But what I will say is the coolest thing about that question is that it's truly unpredictable what that damn Tuesday is going to look like. Truly. Like, I mean, I personally, I supervise 11 locations, and we're always looking to grow, and we are currently attempting to grow. And so, as any job, you have everything laid out. Like, hey, this is what I'm going to do this week and this day. I'm very structured and organized. And so I would say when that particular Tuesday opens up, I'm going to kick off my daily responsibilities. But you know what, man? There's always some kind of weird shit that happens somewhere. And I'm like, oh, great. So much for what I was going to do. Now let's go MacGyver this strange thing that just happened. And we don't even know what it is and why it happened. That's the fun
So,
part about it, man.
so it's kind of like being in the military.
Yeah.
You never know what you're gonna get. Tell me one of your best stories, because every facility manager has that one story. What's your one story that you just went, wow, how did I get through that?
Yeah, no, man, that easy one to answer. First one that came to my head. So this was actually my third year with the FAA, and this was here in Austin. And we had this crazy flash flood. And anybody from Texas, man, knows that when Texas decides to rain, like you're getting like 4 months of rain right now, like bam.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happened. It was wild. And unfortunately, man, and this is the air traffic control tower. We've got radars. We've got all kinds of very high technical equipment that's controlling all of the airspace, right, at an international airport. And the tower flooded. And so it flooded so fast that I was like, man, this is like something out of a movie. So we're standing. I've got photos, man, of me standing in like 3 feet of water in our tower. Like it was just such a freak thing. And of course, when things like that happen, man, people are panicked. People are freaking out. People are going ape shit. What do we do with here? We're shutting airspace down. We're transferring control to Houston. There's thousands of people stranded at the airport now. And I mean, you can only imagine what that's like, man. And I had to immediately reflect during that exact moment of, wow, I really, really need to calm down and triage this. Because if I don't maintain my cool, and if my people see me freaking out, we're toast, dude.
That's
So, yeah, being able to reflect on some crazy stuff that happened in the military, truly, man, as wild as it was to have a flood, was nothing compared to some of the other things I've been through. But as a facilities manager, it was intense, super intense.
and that's the thing about facility managers is they've kind of transitioned into an educator role for the operators, and so as you go into these stores, I mean, we're a little bit older. We're kind of like fine wine. We get better as we age, but we're dealing with a younger generation. How do you coach and teach these younger operators?
And I love that question. And I have to reflect again on what I said with my children. I've got a large span of age range. So my oldest is 24, and then you can go all the way down to a 7-year-old, right? And so when you walk in and you're dealing with folks who really don't understand a lot of this world that we work in, I really have to be selective on the verbiage I use and what level of knowledge we're going to talk, right? And so you have to be very good at being able to talk at a very high technical level. By chance you have someone who's on that level, and you have to be able to not, I hate to use the word dumb it down, but for lack of a better term, you have to be able to speak very, very simple.
Yeah. And for me, it seems like life is a lot like facilities because you might be a chameleon. I mean, you have to really kind of change your colors with different people, and that's the same way life and relationships are.
Yeah,
You
man, and that trick is to never, at least for me, man, I never want to walk in and seem like I know more and I'm Mr. This and that. That's because it's not the goal, right? So you have to deliver it in a way where it's a mutual respect. Like, hey, dude, I'm not talking down to you, but here's how we're going to need to resolve this.
Well, you touched on it earlier, servant leadership.
Yeah,
And I think that one of the things we've lacked in not only facilities but in business is truly having leaders who are servant leaders. And
yeah.
I notice in facilities that pendulum is swinging to more of a servant leadership style. Do you see that at Flix?
At Flix, absolutely, man. And this is one of the reasons why I actually came to work here. Um, I had obviously interviewed and discussed thoroughly with our CEO and our VP, and I really, really, really wanted to make sure that I'm joining a team that is servant leadership driven. I think a lot of the hiccups and problems out there in that topic is because we've transitioned to such a solid state, role in our society. Everything is electronic, everything is digital. And we've really gotten away from that analog, that autocratic driven system, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's still, unfortunately, a lot of folks that were born and bred and raised up in that autocratic system. They still use it because it worked for them. I got it. But it does not work now, man. And as you said, when you go in and you talk to younger folks and so on, man, they don't live in that world.
Nope.
So if you're in that analog world, dude, you're so far behind the curve.
Yep. One of the things, and it goes. I mean, I know you deal with it on a daily basis, dealing with your operators. But one of the biggest things I've found as a vendor is communication, and the art of communication is not easy, whether it be written, verbal, or texting. And so when you partner with vendors, how do you set that expectation for communication?
Yeah, no, man, that's a great question too. I think it's evolved over the last few years, and I probably in 5 years I'll give you a different answer, right? I think that I think that again, the vendors that have been very successful in that analog world try to keep it that way, right? They want to write you the hand invoices. They want to say, hey, call me. And I respect that, dude. That works. But we're so thin now as leadership roles because we have so much technology. We don't need to be staffed like we used to.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, it's like, dude, I can't take the time to literally pick up this phone and spend 10 minutes talking to you when I could send a 3-second message.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I think right off the bat, it's at least I structure it in a way where I expect immediate written communication, and I expect you to be able to interface with our CMMS platform. And if you cannot do that within our first exchange, as good as your company may be, I can't spend my time because I don't have the time to give you back, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so I definitely, man, with all of our folks that are all out there in our company working with vendors, that's the first line. Hey guys, you need to get them lined up with our CMS platform. If I hear back, hey, they're having a hard time. Sure. I mean, we'll give them a little chance to try to help them. It's not difficult. It's point and click. A lot of times I'll say, well, do they have a grandkid or somebody they can call and walk them through it? I mean, kids will get them on there in a second.
So, if you could tell any vendor out there watching, what is one thing you would recommend to them, whether it be from, and you know me, I don't like saying this word, whether it be from a cold call or to being an actual partner with you, what would you tell them? One valuable piece of advice.
As far as like trying to get business or you're saying it's as far as
Let,
trying to
let's,
become
let's start at a cold call. Let's start
oh
at
God. Well, I mean, shit, definitely. If anybody out there is doing that cold call, I would even go as far to say cold text or cold message. I would love to see some data behind any success stories with that. I don't see that being even a player. But, I mean, I'm not in sales. Maybe it is. I think personally, man, you really have to get out and flex your business. In other words, like see, show the public, show the other commercial companies what your company can do, right? So how do we do that now? I mean, again, as I said, we're total solid state. Man, get some videos out there, get some podcasts out there, get some verbiage out, get some interaction out there, man. We're not 1985 where you pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I want to sell you some encyclopedias." Like we have moved on from that, you know?
And you know what's funny too is we've heard the old adage for many years growing up is people buy from people.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I still see people that they insist on doing 500 cold calls a day. And I don't know. My time's a little more important than that than to get hung up on. I'm sensitive too. So, but
Yeah.
tell me about situational awareness for you and also for your vendor. If a vendor goes on site on a call, how does that vendor differentiate themselves from just being that vendor to
Mm-hmm.
being a top tier partner with you? What are
Yeah.
some things they can do?
Yeah, man, I love that too. So for me, at least, it's be disciplined, right? Show up on time, number one, and then number two, communicate. So the CMMS platform I've put out there is very very communicative driven, you know, and it's all from an app. So it's literally point click on your phone. You know, hey, I'm here, I've arrived. Click one button, I've arrived. You know, and then it notifies not only myself but any of the other technicians and operators that are involved in this. That, oh, the vendor's here now. And it literally, you just point click, and okay, cool. The vendor's there, they're done, everything's good. Now they're going to upload their invoice, right? Be consistent, be professional, and truly, man, follow the roles and responsibilities of the company that they are asking you to do, right? Because it
Yep.
takes so much of our time to stop and retrain a technician that shows up from another company. Hey guys, I need you to get on the app. I need you to put this, right? And so when I get a vendor that comes in and they just nail it, man, they're just boom, 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 boom. I mean, obviously, that's the first thing I'm saying is, whoa, we need to get this person. We need to keep this company. We need to give them our business because it's streamlined. They're following our operations. Let's give them the money.
Yep. Yep. You know, it's interesting. We were doing an onboard with a partner today, and one of the things I heard early on in facilities from our RFM was that I pay you to babysit. And the moment you don't babysit anymore, that's the moment we're going to have to stop, having you babysit. And it's really stuck with me because we are that intermediary between you and your operators, and in a sense we're representing you and your choices when we go out to a Flicks brew house and walk in. So the vendor side for you, what is what does your favorite vendor look like, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, obviously, it's one that communicates. You're going to hear that word come out of me a million times. I love it. I think people can over communicate, right? But you'll never get in trouble for over communicating. It'll be annoying, but over communication is better than no communication. So for me, that is the absolute ideal vendor. They come in, they communicate, but also, man, don't lie. Don't tell me what you think I want to hear, right? Like, and definitely the biggest one I hate is when somebody comes in there and tries to feed the local unit BS. Well, I can't fix it because of this. No, man, if that's the case, it better be the case because I'm going to dig so deep that I will call the manufacturer and find out the truth, right? So I'm not the one that works too well with. So communication, they're honest. If they come in and say, look, man, this part is so far out, I think that you're better off by doing X, Y, and Z instead, right? Give me a timeline. Don't try to sell me your part if I have other options that'll make my business start back up and continue to make money, right?
That's yeah, and that's when a true partner defines himself in my world, is when you become consultative.
Yeah.
And we deal with a lot of restaurants, and from my background in restaurants, I know that 90% of the restaurant's smallwares are in the dish area because that disher at night will pull the drains off and they squeegee and throw their water everywhere. And every ramekin, half full fork goes down there. And I've started talking in my stores about just get drain locks on site.
Hmm.
Next time I send somebody out, we'll put those drain locks on. And for us, yeah, we lose the jetting or we lose the snaking, but it's a partnership. We both want to win. And that's where the seeds are planted. That's where
Yeah.
trust comes from. And I think that's one of the biggest things about vendor facility managers. You
Yeah.
have to have that trust.
I think
So
that I think a lot of the vendors, man, unfortunately, are really focused on that short term sale, right? Like it's 1985 again, right? It's
yep,
not about that short term sale anymore, man. It's the long term partnership, right?
yep.
Because if you're going to be honest with me and you're going to communicate, we're going to have a long term partnership. Like you're going to make $1 million, not $10,000. That little short term, hey, I really want to sell you this, you know?
Pennies add up to nickels, nickels add up to dimes, dimes add up to dollars.
Yeah.
And that's that's you are right that a lot of people look at that short term, and it to me it's never been the way I looked, but I know people that do look that way.
Yeah.
That's their jam. They're good with it. We've talked enough about facilities. I want to dig into that head of yours and tell me what are you most proud of being a husband?
Being a husband,
Hmm.
man, well, that's a woof. You know, I'll tell you what, dude. The number one thing for me at this age and this time in my life is to walk home, or not even walk home. Shit, if I had to walk home, that wouldn't be something proud of right now. It'd be pretty tough. But no, I don't walk home. It's to walk in my home, and my kids are happy to see me. Right? They run in there and give me hugs. That is absolutely the most happiest, most makes me the most proud when my kids are happy and they don't have to worry about things.
Okay, so here's another one. If there's a daily habit that you do that keeps you grounded, so to speak, what is that daily habit?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty simple. It is cut out the bullshit. So if I, everybody has routines, right? You wake up, you do this, you do that, you do this, right? I am such a nerd that I will wake up and say, I don't know, man, I've done this for 3 years now. Do I really need to do that? No, it'll save me some time, right? Let's look at trying to do this. I would say cut out the BS, man. You
Awesome.
definitely way more efficient.
Awesome. What's one leadership book or resource for a up and coming facility manager that you would recommend?
Yeah, dude. Hey, I got an example right here.
Now,
It's called
I don't want to put on my reader, so
no. It's called Discipline Equals Freedom. It is a fantastic book about how to create some discipline for yourself and in turn, which rolls into your career. It's a very, very good book.
and who's it written by?
It's Jocko Willink, Willink. He is ex-military guy, very respected in the military community.
Awesome. Awesome. So if you're a younger facilities manager looking for some leadership skills, there's a great book for you to go out and read.
I always recommend that one.
So, what is one thing you wish you could tell your 25-year-old self about leadership that you know now?
Man, I would say when I was 25, I probably would have had a really hard time listening to somebody my age now with my experience. So I probably would have had to fine tune that conversation. But truly, man, I think the as simple that it can be delivered is be patient, right? Like there's zero people on earth that are just all of a sudden they wake up and they're like, man, I'm a great leader. There's people that think that, but they're definitely not. And again, be patient. If you are in such a rush, to be the greatest leader the world has ever seen, yeah, you're probably not going to be that person. It takes a lot of time. And you know what? It takes an incredible amount of failure. As crazy as that sounds, it takes a lot of failure. You got to fail a lot, right? But the difference between the good leader and the bad leader, The good leader fails, and you're all right. I failed. Let's figure out why this happened. Let's not do it again, and let's get better, right? And you get up and keep going, keep going, you keep going, keep going.
That's great.
Never ends.
That is great advice. So I always end my shows with a question, and it sometimes stumps people. But what is the one question that I did not ask you that I should have asked you but didn't know to?
Yeah, man, I would say it is what is currently taking over our industry, world, and so forth. And that would be artificial intelligence, right? My goodness, dude. I never want to feel like I'm behind the curve. And so when this started to take over and it's ramping up such a crazy pace, like in the manufacturing world, actual robots that are taking over and so on and so on. I think in our industry, in our world, if you are behind that curve right now, personally, I think you probably will be out of a job in about 5 years. And so, yeah, I'd say to anybody out there right now who doesn't know a thing about AI, you better start practicing. You better start learning. Right now, the best thing you can do is use it as a tool. Use it to make your life and your job, your career easier, because it is, man. I've started to dabble in a lot of it within the last couple of years when it started to take off. And it cuts so much of your daily BS, which is what I mentioned earlier, out, because it does it for you. I would not recommend it doing your job. However, it will make your job a lot easier.
I think you said the key word, and I'm into it from our conversations, and I preach it to everybody. It's a tool. It is not going to save your life, but it's a tool, and if you use it correctly, you
Yeah.
can become more efficient. So, Daniel, unfortunately, we could talk all day because you just opened up AI,
Well, hey,
but
I want to say one more thing real quick about AI, man.
yeah,
It's a force multiplier. We love to say that in the military.
okay. Let's for civilians, let's break that down.
Makes your job easier. It's badass.
And on that, Daniel, I want to thank you. As I told you, as we've talked, is when I was 18, I didn't want to sign on the dotted line because nobody was going to tell me what to do. And I appreciate you, and I know everybody watching appreciates your service to our country. And keep on rocking, brother. And have a blessed day. And thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, God bless y'all, man. It was a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.